Hello, good morning everyone. I'm very glad that I'm here, and many thanks for Cairo Tronica organizer to allow me this opportunity. My thesis is about Middle Eastern female media artist, self-body image as a freedom concept. Women have struggled historically against certain paradigms of inferiority till nowadays. Women in different societies have their own cultural identity, which differs according to their own beliefs and their own customs. Many of these cultures and these customs are based on patriarchal past where men were more poor than women. As a result, women worldwide experience subjection in the field of jobs, education, sexuality, and reproductive choice. The feminist art movement emerged in the late 1960s amidst the fervor of anti-war demonstration as well as civil and queer rights movements. Harkening back to the utopian ideals of early 20th century modernist movements, feminist artists sought to change the world around them through their art. Focusing on interfering in the established art world, the art of historical canon, as well as everyday social interaction. As artist Susan Lacey declared, the goal of feminist art was to influence cultural attitudes and transform stereotypes. There is no singular medium or style that unites feminist artists, that they often combine the aspects from various movements and media, including conceptual art, body art, video art, into works that presented a message about women's experience and the need for gender equality. Feminist art created opportunities and spaces that previously did not exist for women and minority artists, as well as paved the path for the identity art and activist art of the 1980s. The study of women in the Middle East, now well in its fourth decade, has produced an impressive corpus of paper and periodical articles for purely practical reasons. This review focuses on writing in English in selective rather than inclusive manner. The analysis of women in the Middle East has not always been undertaken with reference to Islam, but a significant body of works influenced partly by the Islam resurgence. Consequent with the rise of study of women as a separate field, does have reference to Islam. Looking closely to modern art history in Middle East and Islamic countries, we found brilliant while female artists really succeeded to break the rules. They chose to express their own art in freedom way. They chose to use their own body as an art medium, which made them a pioneer in their own countries, who had been followed by many female artists after them. One of these wild feminist artists was Shireen Nashat. In her Woman of Allah series, Shireen uses photography as a means of self-expression while demonstrating the characteristics of Iranian society, culture, and tradition. She used the theme of separation both physically and metaphorically to place herself in a superior position, rather than her female counterparts who live inside Iranian borders. All of the image of the Woman of Allah series follow the same theme of bold, restricted silence to old-fashioned and violent Muslim women. Nashat uses photography to convince her audience that they are indeed looking at a specific reality. That within each Iranian Muslim woman resides a negative image. She develops her concepts by first identifying the specific points she wants the viewer to understand concerning her subject. She often crops images and enlarges them because she prefers to work in large format. In Islam, a woman's body has been historically type of battleground for various kinds of rhetorical and political ideology. a culture and its identity can be understood from the status and circumstance of each woman, such as the roles they play in society, the rights they enjoy or don't, and the dress codes, of course, to which they adhere. First, before I talk about media artists in Egypt, I would like to talk about media art in Egypt in general. Media art has been flourished in Middle East, especially in Egypt in the 90s of 20th century. Media art, especially video art, has recently increased in Egyptian art scene, either as a part of installation artworks or as a single video done by artists to experiment and get out their ideas independently outside the huge film industry field. And it was not its appearance as a result of experimentation in the field of commercial television and cinema, as happened in Europe or America in the middle of 60s of 20th century, but appeared as an isolated experiments that completely resist attempts to classify commercials, and they rely on their own experience and their own personal education. There is close correlation between mass culture and video art and media arts in general. These arts have used intense combination between employment of their ability to control and experimentation in mass media with their abilities and previous experience in the field of plastic arts, by its multiple conceptual and symbolic genres. And perhaps this is an important reason that much works of media art pioneers in Egypt in their early beginning has been executed in the form of installation art, as artists use their long experience in the areas of traditional art such as painting and sculpture and architecture. And we may find the similarities and clear the beginning of movement of avant-garde cinema in Europe in the beginning of 20th century, as it established in the experience of many pioneers artists from futurism and surrealism, like Man Ray and Duchamp and Picabia and Dalí, and others who have changed by their experimental contribution in the evolution of both film industry as well as traditional photography areas. I have a little examples of female media artists in Egypt. Most popular one of them is Amal Inawi. Amal Inawi, she was an Egyptian artist, received her undergraduate degree in painting from Faculty of Fine Arts in 1999. She had worked with many mediums, but she was known as a performance and video artist. The work that I'm going to show you now called The Room, which is done in 2003, and it incorporates many concepts of feminist art and heavy symbolism is used through this piece. There's a lot of events are taking in the same place, video and live performance. I think we can see the movie together. video is very dark and sort of like a horror film. Music is playing, but no words are spoken. The artist never looks towards the audience, and lighting of scene with the heart is similar to that in the hospital, and it takes a while to comprehend what's happening. So you can find that it's a video with a heart surgery, and at the same time she's wearing her gloves and use a very delicate substance into the dress, and then suddenly this dress is put in fire and started to flame. So she, in my opinion, she was symbolizing to freedom and a new beginning. With the using of butterfly, she also talk about marriage and love and heart, of course. Second example is Dr. Nagla Samir. She studied graphic design at Faculty of Applied Arts, obtaining her bachelor degree in 1992. She joined the art scene parallel to her academic career as an assistant professor of art and design. Her work falls within diverse disciplines, including photography, digital image, video installation. One of her artwork was lost in transmission. It's a video, but unfortunately I don't have the video, I only have still images of it. A project investigate possible misinterpretation of certain human aspects, revealing through hidden layers of Middle Eastern women, beyond social filters on one hand and inherited misconception and orientalized stereotyping by international media on the other. A project is a video composed of 6-minute film, and she used 8 panels, manipulated photography installed in space. Also, we have another example. She's a young contemporary artist called Mariam Farid. Mariam Farid is an Egyptian visual artist who lives and works in Cairo. She studied at the Faculty of Art and graduated in 2007. We are going to present here work Separation. Separation is a multimedia performance with a full moved map, and it's exhibited in the palace, in Youth Palace, which defines a place where the artist exists. During that, she is moving inside the place, inside a plastic cover. She's expressing the issue of other acceptance, as she is trying to mentally change the picture by which society identifies her. She is trying to get out a new abstract vision by which she could change the physical picture of which she used to identify her. She has an experiment to make this performance in the street, and we have a small movie about this. Adel is a photographer and installation artist who combines text with photography in many of her projects. Adel explores the taboos of nude model in her works where male and female forms are digitally manipulated to hide the essential without affecting the movement. Her use of text confirms the usual message. In doing so, she technically makes use of digital and standard photography, calligraphy, and computer photo manipulation software. Here is some example of her works. Thank you.
Now, Farah Wael وإسلام شبانة, they're members of the Medina Media, and they're going to be presenting a case study how the digital can save journalism.
Hi. Okay, so we're talking about Medina, but before we'll just have a bit of a general overview. So we can agree that not everything that's digital is online. So why is it so hard for the journalism industry to realize that not everything that's online is digital? When the television was invented, we didn't just project text on the screen. We started creating new and different forms and formats that would fit into the new mediums. Sounds, images, moving images, just audiovisual content. Why is it that with the switch to digital, our minds got stuck? We got lazy and chose to opt for the digitalization of print, creating an online archive rather than creating digital content and putting it online. I'm personally very tired of hearing that journalism is dying and how the death of traditional media is upon us. My initial problem with these statements is the use of journalism and traditional media interchangeably. Journalism is a public service. It's the activity of gathering, assessing, creating, and presenting news and information to the public for them to make an informed decision. It's not dependent on one particular medium. What's happening now is that with the digitalization of print, there's a digitalization of business and ownership models of news organizations. But it doesn't work. The internet doesn't work like this. The rules are different. So clickbaits and what we call the Kardashian effect are just the natural outcomes of our collective laziness towards the media. You need traffic to get to pay the journalist. If your journalism is not exciting enough, interesting enough, or just not sexy enough to get you the traffic you need, the solution is not to dumb down and change your journalism. It's to change your approach towards the medium, not towards the message. So what can digital do to save our dying craft? What digital offers is endless possibilities and limitless resources. If you want flying dragons out of your screen, I'm sure you can find a developer who can code that for you. Your audience might not read a 1,500-word essay on economics, but they could watch a 2-minute animation video on the subject, play an interactive game to learn about the Panama Papers. Digital can help strip journalism bare of all the connotations of its previous mediums and bring it to its core, a value added. Journalism is not the news. It's putting the news in context and explaining it. The digital medium allows you to explore more complex issues and find innovative, immersive ways to share these issues with your audience. You can conduct your comprehensive journalistic research and then think about how to best present this research. With that, we'll need to reassess how we define journalism as well. That's a bigger issue, but we can just say that we need to let go of the notion that journalists need bylines and 500-word limits. There needs to be a morphing between journalists and artists that will bring about a new hybrid of digital thinkers. They can research, interview, cite, code, and create. They'll be like Swiss Army knives. They can do many things. So Egypt is a very good example of everything that's wrong with the journalism industry. Putting propaganda media aside, even the independent attempts at making good journalism are failing to realize the potential of digital. So you can actually see that here, this is an actual screenshot from an Egyptian website. And this is an infographic that's not clickable. You can't actually click on the infographic. You can't see it. You can see that this is not made for digital. This is just an idea of how things should be. It's online, it's digitalized. So even independent attempts at making good journalism in Egypt are failing to realize the potential of digital and what it can do. Like this, you have a picture that it's not clickable, it's small, it's A screenshot that could as well be a scan from an actual print newspaper in the 80s. 13 years ago, my father, who was a journalist, writer, and poet, wanted to start a magazine. The idea kept developing over the past 10 years till it became what today we call Medina. Medina is a digital media platform that aims to find the intersection between classical journalistic traits and mechanisms in digital modes of presentation to bring journalism closer to a digital art research project, all that in Arabic. Other than finding the appropriate legal definitions of what we do, one of the very first problems we faced, and we're still facing, is the linguistic definitions. Arabic is a very rich language that's very poor when it comes to digital terminology. We're still struggling to define what we aim to do. One of the things we aim to do is create this lexicon, this terminology of digital in Arabic, and normalize its use. The word currently used for media in Arabic roughly translates to informing, and that's not only limiting but also wrong. Medina is also concerned with breaking the current hierarchy of news and information. Who decided that politics is the most important issue on the agenda? The dissemination of information is top-down, dictated by some authority or another. For us, everything matters, from parties to political parties to everything in between. As a person living here in Cairo, the fact that the president met with anyone doesn't actively affect my daily life. You know what does? The concert happening tonight, the art exhibition opening tomorrow, or the fact that the dollar is on the rise and everything's getting a lot more expensive. So Islam here can tell you a bit more about Medina and how we plan to do all of that.
So, hi everyone, I'm Islam Shabana. I study digital media design. I'm doing my master's now, and I'm responsible for the audiovisual part in Medina, aside from being, I guess, media artist or something like this. Medina is actually a concept. It's not just the idea of using digital media to present or to show what we want to write or research in Cairo or Egypt in general. And the concept is based on, we have Medina's team that actually consists of two main teams, the editorial team and the audiovisual team. And of course we use digital media, that's all we're all about. Between the art research and information. So we deal with the news or the daily events in Cairo as the media. It's part of the process, it's not the end result. And we focus on something called digital tribes because in our contemporary societies, you can, online, you can define people into different categories based on their interests, based on the trends, the music they listen to, the football clubs they are fans for. And here, like everything in the middle is the process to reach these digital tribes. In Cairo, we are still in the research on finding these digital tribes. We are now forming our strategy to reach people, and we don't want to reach the masses. Like we don't want to reach the mainstream. Of course, the mainstream is a good aim, but actually we want to be a new stream. We are not a media with the government or with the opposition. We are just this platform that people go to find their like their entertainment if you want. So we now are building this platform. The core project is a content, a visual based content website. That's the start, and of course it's visually engaging, focusing on interactivity, and of course it's very user friendly because we actually focusing on the audience not to be receptors, but actually we want to engage audience in forming or manipulating even or experiencing the content they go through. And it's multi-layered because the main platform has all the medias or mixed media, and you can also find a section for the video platform or the audio platform, and so on. And later on, we don't know what is the end of the platforms. We can actually focus on the video platform later and close everything else if this is what it takes. This is a mock-up of or a draft. Wow, it's so dark. You just see the logo, which is okay. That's also marketing. Yeah, but I don't know if you see this, but down there there are all the medias, and of course this is just a picture, but in the real mock-up you can find moving images like GIFs or videos and games actually. And now I will be talking about 3 main projects we are working on in Medina. The first project, I don't know if she's here, but she's one of the most important graphic designers for us. I mean, she's really young. She's graduating tomorrow, actually, from the German University in Cairo. I guess she was a student at Haysam's class too, Yusra Gamel. That's her part of her final project, and it's a board game. Translating the obstacles that you go through daily while walking in Cairo, in terms of security checkpoints and military blockage, or the places that you can't go through except if you have a permission. We are developing this to be an actual online game that people can play and experience this by using the platform online, and we are aiming actually to do it in a virtual reality later, so people can download it on their phones, for example, and use Google Cardboards and experience such obstacles walking in Cairo. The research now is going really big because we are in her first attempt at the university. She was comparing Cairo to Beirut and Jerusalem, the east and west. But now we are focusing on Cairo, and maybe later we will carry on. But Cairo is actually really big and very, very rich and layered. So we are starting actually in neighborhoods, like taking each neighborhood and analyze it and make its own experience. We are forming characters and experiencing this game like a normal citizen, or a citizen with an authority, or in a certain class, or if you are a thug maybe, or a foreigner, because now foreigners also face some troubles here, as we all know. The second project is actually divided into 2, and it's called the Sounds of Cairo. Sounds of the City. Sorry. Yeah. And the 2 projects are under the Sounds of the City. First one is by Dina Wadidi, and she's a singer and a musician. And they travel through the cities of Egypt, and they work on the concept of creating music out of the experience they go through, engaging or approaching people in train stations and the entrances of each city. And how this will develop at the end, we still don't know. We have scheduled actually a weekly post, audio post. It might be a song, it might be someone talking about his problems, or talking about the city, the historical background of the train station. At the end, it will develop to a digital, an audio digital library. We aim to make, Dina is focusing on making music out of it, and the result is still unknown. This is one of the guys they approach. It's really dark out there, but yeah. But yeah, and it was, I guess, a driver of one of the trains to Alexandria, and he interviewed and he talked, and they even asked people if they want to sing. The second project in the Sounds of the City is by an electronic musician and producer called Amr Alami. He's over here. And we are making soundscapes of the neighborhoods in Cairo. We're starting in Zamalek. This is an initial path, now it's burned. It's overexposed. Yeah, it's fine. This is an initial path that we will go through Zamalek, and we are starting with like in Zamalek because our headquarters or the office is in Zamalek, and then we will make this interactive soundscape so people can go through the map. Of course, this is just a draft or a sketch, and then people can hear what's happening in the streets. But at these certain points, we pick there is something more interesting than just the sound of the street, like someone also like talking about the political situation, or maybe the economical situation, or someone singing in a remarkable way. So these points will tell a story, and that's the second project. I mean, these kind of, maybe for most of you guys, this is not a new thing, but for people in Egypt experiencing this in a content website would be I guess groundbreaking. And we were actually advised many times to decrease or to tone down our creativity, but we want to push the limits as much as we can. And because of this tone that we faced, people telling us like, okay guys, calm down, people will not get audience, and it will be hard for people to get this in Egypt as an alternative school or educational process to teach digital media, and this way of thinking. We want people to get out of this hub as media designers and media thinkers. I guess that's all. I hope I made sense. So thank you, and God bless digital media.
Visual investigations of the surrounding through pattern. She's going to be presenting the Layer project, Lost and Found Digital Translation.
Yes. Hello, my name is Julia Heurling. I'm a designer and artist, and I have recently joined the Planetary Collegium as a PhD candidate. I am based in Stockholm, Sweden. My main interests are pattern and abstraction. And over time, I've developed a methodological view of what a pattern and abstraction could be. I look at electronic art as an outsider. I think it's not a field I usually operate within as an artist. So this is a reflection on a quite basic level. I would like to see the aspect of digital as an extension on or a translation of something analog. And in this talk I will reflect upon applications and consequences of what digital translation could mean in relation to a project called the Layer project. The layer project deals with exploring borders of 2- and 3-dimensional and the analog and the digital. What happens there, what defines those borders, what explains them, how can you compare them, how can you relate them to each other, how are they different, does media transform or simply transmit imagery, and what happens with content. So the layer project, it first developed as a photo workshop in Härjedalen, a small rural village in Sweden, where nature is dominated by forest, and the concept with layers emerged from the idea of how a forest resembles a raster through the repetition of trees. I was fascinated by the coexistence of contrasting qualities such as simplicity, complexity, natural, mysterious, exposed, hidden. And I took photos of the environments in Härjedalen, both from the forest and of man-made things at the local recycle station, because I was tempted to see if I could apply the idea of layers to other imagery than the forest. And this project emerged in analog mode through making of 2- and 3-dimensional paper sketches from cutting paper photographs in stripes as layers. And for an exhibition, I made 3-dimensional models of these photos as boxes or frames where the images were mounted as a combination of layers. And I thought those layer boxes worked, as I say, as art objects. They operate on a border between 2- and 3-dimensional. They have an interactive effect as they change in the visual appearance as the viewer changes position. And they might give awareness of the viewer's own presence in the room and might have enough impact on the viewer's mind to stay in its memory. And to make documentation of the objects, I first took photographs, but then I started to film them to capture the 3-dimensionality and the movement within them. And when I did that, I realized the difference in filming these objects and filming the movement. When I zoomed in within the frame, I could disregard from the frame and the idea of object. And I found that the film expressed visual content as separate or independent from object, as movement or changeability of appearance. So I'm going to show some samples of these films or animations now. It's a selection of 5 objects. And this is what the objects look like, seen from front, 4 of them, and this is the 5th one, to give you an idea of what the boxes or containers look like. And about animation, I find there is movement within the objects. The movement only exists within the frame, but depends on change in the viewer's position and perspective. And I call it reverse animation, because it's not the image that moves, it's the spectator. So animation refers to the making of illusion of motion through static images, and I think that these objects are, they could be referred to as static. They depend on movement of the viewer to activate changeability within the frames. And about digital translation, by translation in this context, I refer to the transfer of a live experience to a recording. Translation between mediums result in transformation of content. Filming here refers to translation of content to digital form as adapted to computer technology and adapted to a wider range of consumption and communication through publication on the internet, compared to as objects in a gallery. Filming could be seen as a way to extract or isolate a visual feature from its physical source or origin. Animation in this case connects between analog and digital dimensions. The visual experience is lifted or extracted from the object and gains communicability through increased visual immediacy. And about abstraction, in my work as an artist, I use abstraction as a method to separate qualities from each other and from context and to look at them closely. And as abstraction in this project, filming, I find is a way to lift the content from context of time, place, and object. The objects or frames could be seen as containers of visual information. As an abstraction, the film relieves and releases. When you don't see the frame or the gallery, you can apply the imagery anywhere. As abstractions, the film gain imaginative power through removal of the frame. And then about the lost and the found. As I see it, what's lost in this translation is the moment of surprise or realization when the imagery within the frame change depending on viewer perspective. As a here and now awareness, as a reminder of our own existence. And interactivity disappears. A film serves visual content as one-way communication, regardless of viewers' effort or engagement. Also lost the complexity of the object. It gets narrowed down to one interpretation directed by the filmmaker. The freedom of the viewer to direct her or his own experience is lost. The exclusivity of object and experience of it, if published on a website, on the internet, the digitalized experience will be common, accessible to anyone. The live experience of the present, a recording is made in the past. And what I regard as found in this translation, filming, the artwork release, the visual content from the frame, it becomes independent of the physical object as mediator of visual experience. Through abstraction, the associative imaginative power or aspect increases in the imagery when transformed to film. Immediacy in impact, or at least in delivery of message. Time and effort spent by the viewer to experience content is minimized. Also found a potentially bigger audience if published on digital platform. And digital film is material, so of course it doesn't age. It's not physical, fragile. It can be reproduced and spread easily without technical quality loss. So, to conclude this, I think technology is a way to optimize qualities, but also a tool to reflect. It could be a way to evaluate, develop, and challenge the concept. And this investigation of translation can be seen as a way to look at image through digitalization, but also a way to look at digitalization through image. What is digital translation? It depends on context, of course. And animation can be seen as a translation of several levels, from physical to digital, from real to immaterial, from exclusive or one-of-a-kind to reproducible, from gallery to internet, from concrete to abstract. So translation transforms content. It's one step in development or in the mapping of possible extensions of the artistic concepts of the layer project in this case. Animation opens up for further development and enriches the project by its conceptual core, which is complexity. Yes, that's it. Thank you.